Here's the thing. Do you like Yu Yu Hakusho? Vagabond? Dare I say it? Do you like Berserk? Yeah, I know, says the guy that's never read Berserk. Yeah, no, I get that. I'm working on it. I promise. But I randomly picked up a manga volume, and honestly, this series is kind of awesome. It's called Sword of the Demon Hunter. I mean, just look at this cover. Seriously. I just really enjoyed like the watercolor look to it, and it feels like the lights are coming over his shoulder. It's a really striking cover. Thus, when I saw it at Books A Million, I had to pick it up. I actually picked up Volume 1 and Volume 2. Come to find out, that's all that's out right now currently of the manga. It is based off a light novel. But I was very surprised about this series. It really kind of gave me 90s, early 2000s vibes to it. Like, it definitely felt like Rurouni Kenshin, Yu Yu Hakusho. I think it has some romance in there, too. I know there's some romance in there. I've read the whole first volume. And I know, listen, you're like, hey, man, keep that romance out of the seinen manga. Wait, just hear me out. So, Sword of the Demon Hunter is written by Moto Nakanishi. Perchance that's how you say their name? Let me know in the comments. Again, you know this. Not great with pronunciation. I'm trying my best. I actually even went into Google. I went into google.com and put in their last name to be like, maybe. And nothing came up. So this is where we're at. But what I loved about even the start of this is we are introduced to this young girl. And she is kind of part of this temple, and she's going to become like this goddess of this temple. Not actually, maybe actually, I don't know. Listen. When I tell you this one part, you'll understand why I'm kind of confused. Become like the princess of this temple. Let's put it that way. And a random stranger moseys into the temple and asks, what's your name? And she kind of tells him, and she gives him this phrase. I'm not going to try to pronounce this phrase. Here's this phrase. There you go. And he starts to cry. And he just says, like, thank you. She's like, you didn't even ask your question that you had for me. And he walks away. This is present day. Boom. We are sent back to the Edo period of Japan, and we are introduced to this character again. What I'm saying is he's the same age. So, not in Volume 1, but there is 100% time travel involved in this story. See, I told you, it's got seinen elements, it's got romantic elements, it's got time travel elements. It's got a little bit of everything. I'm not going to lie. Again, we don't see the time travel elements in this first volume, but that's what has to happen, right? Like, it has to happen. And so, as we are introduced to Genta and the world that he inhabits, we're introduced to his childhood friend who is now becoming like this very important figure in this temple. The temple that he saw the girl earlier at. Well, earlier in the manga volume, way later in the world, in the universe. This is going to be very confusing. His childhood friend is called Shirayuki. We are also introduced to Suzanne. I'm not going to tell you much about her because I feel like it very much spoils kind of this twist in this first volume. All I will say is time and age and everything is very relative in this world because this world is inhabited by demons. Genta is assigned, and he bets his life after, obviously. Here's where the shonen seinen elements come in. A tragic backstory. A very tragic backstory. It definitely has that trope, and I think it does it very, very well. But he chooses his life to protect the goddess of this temple. Come to find out, it is his childhood friend. She also, surprise, surprise, tragic backstory. And I don't really want to give any story elements away because I kind of want this video to be like, I really found this very cool manga and you should check it out, right? The reason I kind of gave away apparently the time travel elements, one, I don't know too much about it, and two, it's literally the first 3 pages of this manga. But what I do want to talk about is, while it is wrapped in this shonen seinen element, because demons inhabit this world, and the demons are so cool. The art in this book, while maybe panel to panel, it's not draw-dropping art where you're like, oh my God, have you seen this? Have you seen this art? You know what I mean? My jaw is on the ground. my jaw is huge because this art is so amazing all the time. No, it's not. When they do action and they do certain scenes, it feels like the artist changes up their style. And that style, when it's changed up, it actually helps convey either the emotion in the panel or the action in the panel, some type of element in that panel, because the art is not always jaw-dropping. And that's kind of the thing that I really appreciated of this, is like, I think, whether they're doing it on purpose or not, taking their time on certain panels helps convey emotional story beats. And for that, it really works in this manga. Other thing that I was so surprised about with the wrapping and trappings and tropes that it kind of goes through is for them to give Genta, the main character, such a intriguing backstory. Again, if you forgot earlier in this video, he's somehow in present day. I can't tell you how. And I think it is really well paced in the sense of it has to give you this backstory and give you kind of these reasons that like a lot of volume ones have to do. But I think it splits the slow character moments with action and romance and kind of building this world and kind of letting you know what kind of world you're about to inhabit in this story. And also, I'm going to be completely honest with you, I'm a sucker for this kind of period in Japan history. So, listen, you give me swordsmen, samurais, in the Edo period of Japan, it is a personal bias. I will give you that. If you don't like that setting, I think you will lose out on some of the charm of this series. So, there you go. There's a little warning. I'm a sucker for this kind of setting. But I don't think it can be understated how well done and well set up these characters are. It's like 4 chapters. You absolutely can tell that some of the chapters are 50 pages. So they are a little longer than your normal manga chapters. So that does give them a little leniency in building up the characters and making it feel like more than just 4 chapters. Because we are normally used to about 22 to 30 pages a chapter. But let me tell you, when I say that I was not expecting this kind of story where all of these characters work so well for me, you feel for Genta, the main character, you feel for his childhood friend that is making this big life decision to devote her life to this thing. And then you also have Susanna's, who's with them. Again, I'm not going to spoil who Susanna is or what her backstory and history is, because I think it's a very, very cool surprise that this story throws at you about halfway through. But I became so invested in Chiriyuki's and Genta's relationship. Again, it's first volume. And they make those characters feel so good. The dialogue is sharp and you can kind of get their sense of humor. And that's what I really like about this, is they have interactions. Like, because everyone, you know, your highness, you know, princess, whatever you want to call it, right? In front of everybody. But when they're alone, she kind of pokes at him. And she's like, remember, we grew up together. Like, you can save the formalities when, you know, we're in public. We're in private. Just treat me like we used to. And I think that sells a lot of things that happen later on in this volume, because you get the history of these characters and you kind of understand their dynamic and relationship just out of the conversations that they have. They don't legitimately have to. There's a few flashbacks, but it's not always like, hey, do you remember that time? Transition, daydream, flashback scene. The dialogue is written so that you kind of get their history and relationship without having to see their history and relationship, which I can think sometimes can slow down a very first volume of a series. But while their relationship is definitely front and center in this manga, his relationship to Suzune, you should just read this volume, because I think that it opens up a very, very interesting relationship. And that is also why I think they are on the cover together. And, you know, if you notice, I'm not going to say anything, but interesting, right? Interesting that she has some sort of tourniquet or eye patch or makeshift thing covering her eyeball, isn't it? Isn't it interesting? Let's go back. Very interesting. No spoilers here. No No spoilers here. Was that subtle enough? I think it was. I think that was very subtle. You never saw it coming. So while I think Sword of the Demon Hunter has built up great character relationships, obviously you want to believe the trio is the main source. Here's the thing. You still have that, and I think this was so smart to do it in the first few pages, the time travel element. Now, where I think that comes into play is there's demons in this world. And when you think of demons, you think of kind of like, I don't know, there's been a bunch of incarnations of demons, so you might think of anything, but these demons are actually kind of well-spoken. They are monstrosities and monsters, but very well-spoken and super strong. And that is such a great whiplash to have, is you kind of have this drama romance thing going on, and then when the panels switch and the action panels start coming in, you're like, oh, well, this is just fun. This is just action and fun. And that's where the 90s really hit me. It really gave me those types of vibes when I was reading it, especially as someone that had just read all of Yu Yu Hakusho. It most certainly has that feel to it. And I think those demons in play, especially when he battles towards the end of this volume, that's where the time travel has to come in, right? Like, listen, for everything to feel so grounded in this world, the demons are a very stick out of supernatural points. And honestly, I think it has everything you could ask for if you like this type of story in a volume 1. It sets up a very interesting question in the beginning. How does our hero get into present day while having fantastic characters and relationships and good dialogue, throwing in this supernatural fantasy action element? And I think it blends it all so well in such a tight first volume that when I was reading it, I never felt like, I am just so bored, because I was always learning new information. If it was about a character, about the world, about the story, or what the main story is going to be about, because I actually don't think it's going to be about what they kind of frame it as in the first chapter, where it's like Shiyuki is trying to make this choice. Jinta is going to be her guard and protector. I think that's just a very, very small thing. And I actually don't think the main story is really explored in this first volume. And for me to be this intrigued without actually knowing what Jinta's story and journey is even going to be about is super exciting. But I don't know, man. Like, I might have just rambled on, but it was one of those, I randomly picked up this volume at a Books A Million. And I did not know what to expect. And that's what I love about, like, just looking. There is something to be said. Like, of course, it's awesome to, you know, watch videos or see the popular series and kind of know about it and then pick it up. But to just, this was just on the shelf, picked it up, said, I really like this cover. And then to really enjoy something this much, I just had to make a video about it, because I just really wanted to talk about it. And if you don't know, you're my friends I talk about manga with. So there you go. Hey, hello. Hopefully you got something out of it, and hopefully I did a good enough job explaining why I think this is a good manga. And if you're in the mood for this type of story, maybe you haven't even heard of this, I think you should absolutely give this first volume a shot, because I think it really sets up a lot of stuff in this first volume to be a very cool story and an interesting journey. So if you've never heard of it, maybe pick it up and let's talk in the comments down below. And if you have heard of it, why'd you never tell me about it? Huh? You hiding this? You stashing this away? You don't want me to know? It's very rude. That's all I'm saying. But if you have read it, let's talk in the comments down below, because I got nobody to talk to about. So let's. Did you like this first volume as much as I did? And as always, if you made it to the end of the video, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. It means the world to me. And I hope if you're having a bad day, it gets better. If you're having a good day, it becomes fantastic. I'll see you next time.